Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back on another video from Clyde, and we've got could Aizen defeat the Zero Division, the Royal Guard, the people guarding the Soul King? I think Aizen's got this, could be wrong. He seemed very confident that he could do it, and at the end of the series, when he's just sat in that chair and he's like, you know what, I'm just gonna bring that palace down, just here. I think he's got it, but we'll see where Clyde goes with this, shall we? Because not everything is just straightforward with these things.
Ever since Mr. Kubo introduced the idea of a secret division of Shinigami, it was
a cool concept. It was really cool. Very disappointing though when they started doing stuff. It's like, oh, is that it?
A group of 5 captain-level Shinigami, all of which are designated to stay in the
really interesting abilities as well.
Which is separated from the Soul Society in a completely different dimension. Aizen's goal, once defeating the Soul Society and Ichigo, was to invade the Soul Palace after creating the Oken.
Yep.
Take down the Royal Guard.
Who's going to be like, bam,
kill the Soul King.
And he's going to murder it.
Although Aizen's goal was never really thoroughly explained to us,
why?
other than his distaste for authority
I'm angry.
and his obvious objections to the way the universe was run by the Soul Society, his mysterious goals and the battles that could have happened are extremely fascinating to think about.
Yeah, like what if he actually did go up there and fight them?
It's also interesting to think that if he, say, did defeat the Zero Division, how would Aizen have reacted when the Quincy came out of the shadows to fight him? They definitely would have taken action if they heard the Soul Society was destroyed by Aizen and the Soul Palace was currently open.
Yeah.
But because Yhwach's powers did not come back until almost 2 years after Ichigo defeated Aizen,
oh, right, yeah.
would this situation actually give Aizen an upper hand? It's all interesting to speculate about. In today's video,
that is an interesting
I will be
idea.
talking about the idea of, could Aizen defeat the Zero Division? For this video, I will be using Aizen after his battle with Ichigo. So, just imagine that Aizen reforms his body like he did after getting hit by the Mugetsu.
Right, he's still got all that going on.
In this battle, he actually transforms into the next form he mentioned to Ichigo, but Urahara never actually appears to activate
to stop it.
Right.
Oh god, yeah, Aizen's got this, come on, surely.
Unconscious in the fake Katakura town. I'll also talk about how the fight differs while fighting out of character when it comes to Aizen, and how things would actually go if you were to plug a controller into the back of Aizen's head and use all of his arsenal correctly.
Right.
Before we do dive into this video, I just want to say that if you're a fan of Bleach, then
definitely subscribe to his channel if you like Bleach. Jeez, the man's like a beast when it comes to like Bleach discussions.
I will continue to support Bleach by making plenty of content in the future.
Right.
And also, if this video reaches 15,000 likes, I will begin working on my Kenpachi video ASAP.
Ooh.
Trust me, it's a big project.
Link in the description. Goes to the original video. Slap a like on there, guys.
Zero Division, it honestly reminds me a lot of Madara versus the 5 Kage.
Ooh.
All of them are hyped up to be a huge deal at the start of their respective war arcs, and every time they're brought up, they're talked about in a very respectful and serious manner. Because it's even stated that all of the members of the Zero Division combined are actually stronger than the Gotei 13.
Damn.
Which, funnily enough, turns out to be quite inconsistent and, in fact, false, as Shunsui can keep up with Volständig Lily Barrow, whereas the Zero Division members who fought him were completely blitzed and destroyed.
That's very true.
Inconsistent.
And
were already having some difficulties with these specific Quincy before their true powers were even given back to them. I definitely feel that the only member of the Zero Division who actually has enough strength to genuinely contest more than 5 of the Gotei 13 is definitely Ichibei.
He's up there.
But I will talk about Ichibei a little bit later, as he is the biggest issue for Aizen in this hypothetical battle. One of the benefits that Aizen has going for him if he invades the Soul Palace to fight the 5 of them is that they don't have any battle data on him, other than what they know about him before he fused with the Hogyoku.
Interesting, yeah, they don't actually know what he's about, yeah.
Countermeasures in place, or them knowing how to stop it is irrelevant, as Aizen now has an ability due to his Transcendence, which makes it so that he is fully fused with his sword.
Yeah, man.
What this allows him to do is to affect people with his hypnosis without him having to even draw his sword.
Oh yeah, jeez, yeah.
Because he is now fused with the sword, his body acts as an extension of it.
Yeah, so he's just doing his abilities.
When, just by Yhwach speaking with Aizen when he visited him in the Mugen, he was placed under his Kyoka Suigetsu, and it was still in effect even when he battled Yhwach at the end of the arc. It's basically the same situation where all of the Shinigami and Visors who seen Aizen's sword release years ago were still under his hypnosis 100
But he doesn't need
years
the
later.
sword.
When Aizen steps into the Soul Palace, the second any of them glance at his body, they are now in checkmate, and they will never be able to locate where Aizen actually is. On top of this, because of Aizen's experience with Yamamoto where he was caught off guard, he will know to be more serious, especially because he would have the common sense of knowing the Royal Guard are no joke.
Yeah, man.
A lot of people are going to assume that teamwork will give the Zero Division
Yeah, numbers, man. The numbers argument.
Do you remember when that was tried on pre-Transcendence Shikai Aizen? The Gote 13 plus the Visors who had holification? It didn't turn out so
Didn't work.
good.
Yeah.
Even when the Zero Division tried countermeasures against the Quincy invasion of the Soul Palace, that failed, and Yuha Bark was able to surprise Ichibei many times in their battle. Along with Nimaya claiming the only battle data he had on Yuha Bark was the recent battle with Yamamoto and the fight with Yamamoto from the original war 1,000 years ago. Any pre-existing battle data they may have on Aizen would also be outdated as they don't know the extent or capabilities of his newfound transcendent Hokage
It's just
powers
so
too.
much higher.
So even if they planted traps for Aizen, would this even work? Considering
Because they don't even know what level of like traps they
Most
need
likely
in that.
not.
Yeah.
Individually speaking, this battle is extremely in Aizen's favour as he not only has a speed advantage in the battle, but if you grant him the ability to teleport with his Hogyoku and treat it as real teleportation, none of them will be able to keep up with him. Another
Yeah, because it's not like a flash step, is it? He's like, it's more
and the barrier between Shinigami and Hollow once he reaches the
flying
first few
Raijin
stages of the
Naruto,
Hogyoku,
isn't it?
let alone his butterfly form, his monster form, or the new form that I'm using in this video. He is naturally stronger than all of the Zero Division in raw power. The Bleach data book Unmasked states that the Mugetsu was the strongest thing in the Bleach lore at that time when it was used, and this was actually stated when the Zero Division were mentioned to exist in the story. Now, Aizen, while even in his monster form, which far surpasses any Shinigami at that point, couldn't even sense Dongai Ichigo, and Mugetsu Ichigo was so strong that he thought its power was on a different dimensional plane, because he couldn't even fathom its power.
It's like, what? This is
Aizen
incomprehensible.
survives the Mugetsu with his regeneration powers, but even while having his entire body eviscerated by the attack,
He still comes back.
returns
Yeah.
and claims he will surpass Ichigo's
Yeah,
power.
he said he's like, I'm gonna
Now, surpassing the
evolve
Mugetsu
further
is
than this.
obviously untrue and a little far-fetched, but surpassing Dongai wouldn't be too far-fetched, as he did actually damage Dongai Ichigo while he was fighting him. Anyway, I'm making this point because whether it's Monster Aizen, Butterfly Aizen, or this new long-haired Aizen, he is going to be extremely dangerous for the Zero Division.
Hell yeah, he is. He's going to be so dangerous.
At the level even before going into his butterfly form, where he can destroy the Cleaner, an anomaly which doesn't even obey the laws of physics or operate with spiritual pressure, but actually the idea of reason. And just by Aizen glancing at the Cleaner, he destroys
Yeah, it's gone.
Once again, this feat was performed in a super weak form compared to his final transformations, and destroying something that all Shinigami are scared of being hit by is pretty insane. If you actually get hit by the
pretty big
Cleaner,
feat.
it can actually launch you through time. In the Japanese translation of Aizen vs. Ichigo, Aizen also claims that with transcendent spiritual pressure, he can literally atomize Ichigo with his Kurohitsugi, and his hypnosis plus any other Kido or powers he can use is incredibly amplified by his transcendent spiritual pressure. Even his physical strength and speed is shown to increase.
Increased, yeah. Everything's
it would also
amped.
naturally make his Kyokusui more potent than before, and this is backed by it still affecting the strongest form of Yuha Bark, who couldn't break out of it at the end of the series. You could make a counter-argument and say, but didn't Aizen say he would most likely lose to Yamamoto in a fight and wasn't confident in a one-on-one battle with him, hence why he made Wonder Weiss with the Hogyoku to seal
Yeah,
his
he had
powers?
him with the
Well,
sole
this was
intention of
base
fighting him,
Aizen,
didn't he?
who was already way beyond captain level. Aizen being a threat to Yamamoto even back then in that form isn't actually that crazy, and it's not like he was making a definitive claim that he would just
couldn't fight him.
outright lose.
Yeah.
More so, he just had contingency plans in place to make sure
He was a
things
clever
would go
boy.
smoothly,
He was
just
very
like how
clever.
he
He
went
was
through
like, I
Yura
need
and
stuff
Yami in
just in
Wako
case.
Wado to take care of Unohana and Kenpachi, as it's actually stated he didn't want to fight Kenpachi until he was basically immortal with the Hogyoku. But even with that being said, he has always been considerably strong. In fact, base Aizen is stated stronger than all of the Espada, and the reason the Espada followed him in the first place, considering how much they don't even get along with one another,
It's just because of his strength.
because of his raw power.
Yeah, they
not
literally
because of his
are
Kyokusui
like
Getsu,
recognize how
which
strong he is. They're like,
confirmed
oh
straight
no,
from
he's
the
got us.
To over-exaggerate the statement that Aizen made to Yamamoto and say something like, well, he's also keeping in mind that he's going to be much stronger when he fuses with the Hogyoku, so even with that in mind, he still believed that Yamamoto could potentially beat him in a fight. that we can't even say for certain is actually true, especially when Aizen was constantly surprised at how strong he got with the Hogyoku, showing he
he
definitely
is
changed
even
his
like,
mind
whoa,
about what he
I'm
said
pretty
earlier.
OP.
And also, he did tank an attack that is stronger than Yamamoto, then was about to transform again.
He was good at a transcend,
so it's not
man.
looking too good for that argument if you want to bring it up. The Bleach data book Unmasked also puts heavy emphasis a lot on the fact that Aizen and Ichigo have both surpassed the barrier between Shinigami and Hollows. And even when Aizen was in his Silver Surfer form, which is one of the very first forms of the Hogyoku,
The Silver Surfer
Urahara, Yoruichi, and Ishin, who were swapping blows with base Aizen, couldn't sense or do anything to him when he actually tried. In fact, all of them together as a team couldn't do anything to Aizen when he actually tried, and he wasn't even using his hypnosis on them. So the question is now,
how's the fight actually go? Sweet.
Well, if Aizen fights them one-on-one, he blitzes and one-shots all of them, with Ichibei being the only problem in the battle, really.
Yeah.
Even when Gin tried to steal the Hogyoku from a weaker form of Aizen, had his wrist vanish from what is either his spiritual pressure or him slightly grazing his arm.
Well, we got the Death Note music in the background.
As when Aizen then transforms again, without the Hogyoku even being in his body, and he teleports over to Gin, he is so much faster and stronger that he literally tears Gin's arm completely out of the socket. He's just like, yoink, I'll be taking that.
Bye.
And one-shots him. Now, Gin Ichimaru, who is beyond captain level, couldn't do a single thing, and I imagine the same thing would happen to Tenjiro, Nimaya, Senjumaru, and Kiryu. Once again, you gotta really put this into perspective. Aizen was one-shotting characters like Urahara,
all over the place,
Ishin,
man, yeah.
and Yoruichi in a form which was much weaker than the one that he used to one-shot Gin. Even the Gin feat itself, it doesn't even show me that Aizen's really even trying. It's just something he casually
he
did,
does
like
just play it off. There's no
off
effort
and stabbed it
exerted
like
at
it was
all.
nothing. And Gin couldn't react to the attack once again. To think that Aizen couldn't do that to individual members of the Zero Division would be genuinely silly, because he would be leaps and bounds stronger than the form that showcased those feats when he steps into the Soul Palace. Again, in one of the first forms of the Hogyoku, he one-shots Ishin, Yoruichi, and Urahara. In his butterfly form, he casually speed blitzes and then rips Gin's arm off and one-shots him. Like he wasn't even trying anything.
No effort exerted
whatsoever.
whatsoever.
What he could do to all of them if he was in his monster form, or this new hypothetical next transformation.
Redonkulous.
You could bring up the time skip and say they'd have a time skip power-up that helps them close this gap in power with Aizen, but the databook statement about Aizen and Ichigo applies to the War Arc, as Yhwach confirms that Yamamoto's power has stagnated due to the fact that he didn't get his arm healed and, just stayed the same power. And he's apparently weaker than he was in Katakura Town, along with characters like Unohana, who are basically being confirmed to barely ever fight anymore. Aizen would still be above Yamamoto, in fact, much more due to only having one arm and him reaching further levels of power. And these events take place before the time skip anyway, so although it's actually irrelevant to the topic itself, it does need to be mentioned. With or without a time skip power-up, it makes no difference to the outcome of this battle. You'd honestly have to argue most of the captains from the Fullbring arc have closed this gap, or they are somehow relative to Aizen in this form here. And this just makes no sense at all, as we know the majority are much weaker than one-armed Yamamoto.
Yeah.
Just consider this, right? The second he died, Shunsui's first action as head captain was to make sure that Kenpachi was as strong as he could be, because he needed to fill the role of having Yamamoto missing.
Yeah.
Aizen also
fill that void
way before
with something that's like
if Yamamoto
nearly there.
falls, so does the Soul Society. Like, Yamamoto is a big deal. Even if you were to argue Aizen stops using his hypnosis and relies solely on his raw power like he did in the story, that would be enough to destroy all of the Zero Division members, even if they did use teamwork, quotation marks. And the most dangerous thing we'd have to worry about for Aizen is Ichibei's power.
There we go, yeah.
He could possibly land some ink on Aizen, and if he makes any mistakes from his cockiness in the battle, and then his power would be made the strength of an ant, and he could be sealed, or blah blah blah, anything could happen.
The craziness,
from
yeah.
there on, right? It could actually turn out to be a pretty bad situation for Aizen. Though, we know he is immortal, hence why he got such a long prison sentence rather than being executed. And because he wouldn't be in that depressed, I secretly want to lose mindset that Ichigo pointed out to Urahara, he would will his powers back into existence or a stronger transformation, thanks to the Hogyoku.
Damn, yeah.
If Ichibei gets ink onto the Hogyoku, I've seen some people say that this might be able to counteract the Hogyoku.
Oh, what, like just make
but
it stop?
I personally don't believe he would be able to stop the Hogyoku or change it or make it do what he wants, as even Yhwach casually reversed the effects of his powers, and I know that it's different to how the Hogyoku works, but the Hogyoku is hyped up to have, like, limitless power and potential, and it doesn't even obey the laws of physics. It's just on its own sort of, like, realm of power. It just does what it wants. It can will things into existence. If the Hogyoku can make Aizen continuously as strong as he became
as he needs to be,
transformations and evolutionary stages, this wouldn't be far-fetched to think that it's possible the Hogyoku is above Ichibei when it comes to hacks. So, if Aizen has a controller plugged into the back of his head, and I can control his every move like a video game, it goes like this. You walk in, announce yourself to the Zero Division, have your Kyoka Soigetsu ready, get them under the hypnosis,
straight away,
flash over to them, slash their heads off, or use Kurohitsugi to atomize the Zero Division members individually. You can also walk in there and not even show your blade, so all they have to do is just glance at you.
And they're under the hypnosis. Yep, that's crazy.
Once again, checkmate from the very start. If any of them were to try some suicide-based attack that covers an area of effect and they panic and just do it because they don't know where Aizen is, but they're just trying to hit him no matter what, I'd merely teleport far away.
Yeah, it's just like he's gone.
From a distance, which would basically blow up the floating cities and destroy them if any of them get hit by it. Or if you actually say Aizen can't use attacks like this in his new form for whatever reason, I'd just spam long-range Transcendent Kitos, which none of them would actually know are coming due to the hypnosis. And even without the hypnosis, the attacks would be too fast and too powerful for them to react to or defend. Quick and easy, GG. If Aizen is actually in character and he fights like in the story and, he's a little bit impulsive or he does things that he wouldn't normally do, as even Urahara points out that he's fighting differently than usual, he would still have a severe speed advantage, strength advantage, and power advantage.
Because everything's amped.
Individual members of the Zero Division would result in them vanishing from being too close to Aizen, especially while flexing his Reiatsu, which is not being binded to his body by the prison seals. And again, just the speed and strength of his swings would literally just one-shot them, plus the Transcendent Spiritual Pressure would just melt them. Aizen would, again, spam Kitos, which would be amplified by Transcendent Spiritual Pressure, and would actually be able to kill Ichibei, who is the most contentious part of this topic.
Yeah, like, he's the problem,
also, if he does get hit by the ink, as I said before, the Hogyoku will save him from that, and possibly even make him way stronger with another transformation.
Yeah, like I say, if it becomes overpowered, then he'll just boost again.
Honestly, a single win out of like 10 fights with Aizen, where I basically have to give them massive prep time, wank Ichibei's knowledge, which I believe is actually overrated, considering Nimaya said the extent of the battle data they had on Yhwach, let alone this new Aizen, which has gone through multiple different transformations.
A lot, so like, how do you even know how strong he is?
Like, again, I want to really emphasize this. Aizen was able to one-shot people like Yoruichi, Urahara, and Ishin, who were all tag-teaming Aizen. And Urahara basically conceded that they would have had zero chance against Aizen with the level of power he'd reached. So he had to come up with these contingency plans which had 10 steps ahead when it comes to planning a seal on him, waiting for Ichigo to hopefully get strong enough to put
just
him in a
give a moment where you can activate it.
Then the seal would activate and he could seal him while he was weakened at the time for a split second. But with that being said, they all pretty much were no one can beat him. Even Geen highlighted that he's never seen Aizen so strong before. For the hypothetical Zero Division winning situation, you'd honestly have to say that the others can battle Aizen one-on-one in a kind of Aizens versus the Espada situation where they stole him to create openings and without them either vanishing from his spiritual pressure or Aizen merely blitzing and cutting them apart with single blows, may then lead to Ichibei coming up with some crazy final move or lowering Aizen's power with ink and sealing him. But again, the Hogyoku makes this hard, and it might even be the case that Aizen's spiritual pressure could overwhelm the ink's power. That is a possibility considering the statement that Aizen made about Reiatsu and Reiatsu being able to negate others' powers. He basically says if the spiritual pressure is higher, the ability can be rejected.
Yeah.
It's basically the same way that Kenpachi sort of explains Reiatsu in the Soul Society arc when it comes to cutting and defense. I'd also also need to make it so that he doesn't use hypnosis in this fight, and if he does use it, we don't even know if it can be broken anymore, because the sword is now fused with his body.
Part of him, yeah.
Can we even assume that just by touching him now that it breaks it? I don't even think that makes sense, because that would more so seem like a de-evolution rather than an evolution.
Yeah. It's like you're giving yourself a disadvantage, yeah.
You've now gone from, alright, you have to specifically touch the blade, to now you have a much larger area to cancel the power by just touching his body. Like, that doesn't really make much sense. I would assume that if you're going to break it, the sword still needs to be present, and even then he could just continue to hide the sword inside of his body.
Yeah, like, why would he even show it?
We don't even know if Kyokusoi Getsu can be broken after all of these transformations and the transcendent evolution that he's gone through. Sadly for the Zero Division, Aizen is just too quick,
too
physically
powerful.
strong. All of his powers that were successful in the past are now amped, and he is way too hacks. The difference between he and the Zero Division is just too great. And hopefully this puts into perspective just how strong Aizen actually became, let alone after the time skip. Just imagine how strong Aizen at the end of the story in the war arc must actually be, with all of the seals taken off and him to be completely free to do whatever he wants. He must be disgustingly strong. If Ichigo couldn't completely kill Aizen with the Rugetsu, which Aizen thought was a dimensional tier above him in power, and Aizen already stated he couldn't sense Dongai Ichigo, what can the Zero Division do?
Yeah, what can they do? They don't have a chance.
Once again, I would have to give them like an entire month of prep time.
Yeah.
Every possible hypothetical weakness for Aizen to make it as fair as possible. And then also have Batman and Shikamaru with the Zero Division coming up with the perfect plan.
Yeah, it has to be
Aizen.
to
if
the
Quincy's actually
dot.
invaded after Aizen defeats the Zero Division, holy that would be insane.
Yeah, so Aizen, bam, blitzed them. I knew from the beginning. There's no way, if you, especially using Aizen at the end of like the anime. I can't remember the arc name, but you know, the anime. Even if they do something, the Hokoku's gonna like find ways for him to beat them. It's ridiculous. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. What did you guys think of that? What did you guys think of? Just click like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave comments down below, let me know what you watch and discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys. See you guys next time.